Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm here with Patrick and Hans from Open Assessment Technologies. What we're going to do, this is it's a sponsor session. So what we're going to do, there's two things. We're going to allow them to present, take us through what they're talking about. I'm going to answer any questions at the end. So if you have got any questions, please just type them into the Q&A section. And then what we'll do at the end is we'll answer the questions specifically. They'll be pulled up on the screen. Also, if there's any issues or technical problems, we've also got Debbie on the line on the call, so she's able to sort those things out. So without further ado, I shall pass you over to Patrick and Hans, who can introduce themselves and move on with the presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick. We are really delighted to have the opportunity to speak here to the eAA audience. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'm Patrick Plichard. I'm the co-founder of OAT, and I'm acting as the open source community ambassador. And I'm here today with Hans Otto, short Atto, who is the director of Global Assessment Solutions. And today we would like to take you to a little journey in low resource countries when it comes to education or edtech infrastructure. So you will travel a little bit in different countries, and we would like to highlight a little bit how our open source software can help also those countries, but also the challenge that we need to face into those countries. But before we start traveling a little bit, I wanted to start with some of the highlights from PISA and PIAC. I'm sure everyone know about those OECD studies, so basically benchmarking countries for making comparative studies of countries for pupils, 15 years old pupils, but also for adults with PIAC study. And among the different statistics, obviously, and with no surprise, we can see that the digital leaders, those countries with high resources when it comes to edtech software infrastructure, they perform much higher, they rank higher at the end of the day. And no big surprise here. There is a bit of nuance that is interesting from as reported by OECD, that is that starting from a specific threshold of expenses done on the education, or on the tech, or on the educational software, the effect becomes a bit lower, but still, obviously, all the usual suspect, like in Europe with the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, they perform higher. And obviously there is a connection there with the amount of resources that is spent on education, on edtech, on software, on infrastructure there. And today we would like to take the other angle with low resource countries, because as OECD also stated there is scope clearly for low spending countries to raise student performance there. And the first trip I would like to offer to all this audience, so get your boarding pass ready, and not the worst place to have a mission for work to go to, obviously. So we had the chance to try also to improve the education system in Zanzibar. And Zanzibar, it's basically a couple of islands next to Tanzania in Africa, and it's a semi-independent republic of Tanzania. They live from exporting mostly spices, but it's also a very touristic island. On the east side of the island, there's a lot of tourism with beautiful hotels, etc. But the economy is not that strong, and the amount of resources thrown at education, it's quite low. So it's a bit of a challenge, and I've chosen those pictures just to highlight a little bit this challenge and how the reality kicks in there when it comes to trying to improve the education system in those countries. And as the the player here, the leader player in terms of providing modern open source assessment is still a bit of a challenge to try to help also this kind of low resource countries to improve their education system. So to caption a little bit, right, those pictures on the right, what you can see, it's a primary school, and I have been told it's a kind of a typical primary school, and there is no infrastructure, there is not even internet, right? So how can we try to improve the education system? How can we try to provide modern assessments or educational software to this kind of countries in this kind of context? And on the left, it was a bit of a shock from a personal standpoint, but so on the left, what you can see, it was basically all the paper exams done. So it was Form 2 and Form 6. And they were basically there standing, waiting to be graded. And I mean, in Zanzibar, they have a very awesome organization when it comes to grading all those papers. It might look messy, but there was a very good organization with a lot of processes, a lot of forms, and a strong organization. But still, when you think that, you know, the more time it takes to grade exams, to get the results, the scores shared with the different stakeholders, obviously the impact is lower, you know, with time, even primarily for the test taker, but also for the parents, or for the school, for the teacher, for the education system. Obviously, with this tradition of well-established paper exams, the impact is lower on the education system performance. And this is where I wanted to start with, because obviously it seems very challenging, and you can anticipate a little bit the segue with what we can provide to those countries with the open source, but it's not the only ingredient. But before I wanted to tell you all the ingredients to try to improve the education system. But before I share our experience there, I wanted to describe to you a little bit who we are and what we are doing in our company. So who we are Open Assessment Technologies. We are headquartered in Luxembourg. We have offices in different countries around the world. And our flagship product is called TAO, TAO in short. So it's a French acronym. It stands for Testing Assisté par Ordinateur. And it's a product that exists since 2002. It was always open source since day one. And now we are about to make a significant new update of the open source version of TAO, and we would like to share a bit more about this. But the product itself, it's a platform end-to-end, so it covers all the phases of computer-based assessment. So starting with the authoring tool, where basically teacher or subject matter experts can create their questions. It can be simple multiple choice questions, or it can be advanced, innovative, and interactive questions. As we support the standard A with QTI from One Tech, we also support the PCI format, so it can be also very innovative item type, very interactive, even video game-based assessment. We cover also the assembly of tests, where typically subject matter experts or teacher, they can assemble the test together, define the sequence of questions, items, or define maybe sometimes branching rules. The administrative part, where you can define under which circumstances the test takers can take the test, at what time, at what frequency, with maybe accessibility tools on that. So where there is more the administrative part. And then obviously we cover the delivery of the test. So where the test can be delivered on traditional workstations, but also on mobile devices, iPads or smartphones. And We also cover the scoring part, where obviously being digital, all the closed-ended questions are scored automatically, but when it comes to open-ended questions, like typically essays or constructed math responses, we have a product there called Tower Grader. It's fully integrated. So when you take a test with this kind of question, the essay is automatically sent to this product that is called Tower Grader, and where basically graders can start to define their evaluation according to scoring rubrics defined by the authors in the first place. And then we have the feedback loop, meaning that obviously with all the data we gather in this process, it tells you not only about the stakeholders with the test taker and all the higher level stakeholders, it also tells you about the quality of your question in the first place. You know, how they is the difficulty adapted, or are they discriminating? All this kind of data allows us to tell you about your questions, and then you can iteratively improve your item bank into the authoring part. So that's the platform as an overview. And I have also some slide here about our customer base, right, at OAT. And today I wanted to talk about the low resource countries, and I will come back to this later. But obviously our customer base comes primarily from the high resource countries. So typically ministries of education from countries, but not only. We are also doing assessments for certification bodies, universities doing admission tests. And here you can see all the names. I'm sure you can recognize some of the names. We are present in more than 160 countries, but the list does not end here, because on the low resource countries, we have a lot of use cases of our open source platform. And that's something we would like to talk through for a little bit today, because this is quite interesting to see all those use cases here and there, and not necessarily, specifically using the services of OAT, doing customizations for them or doing training, etc. There are a lot of use cases there with using only the open source platform. So a little bit of a zoom on the product. So Tower Authoring, as I said, so allows you to create the question for multiple choice question. And here what you can see on this screenshot is basically the integration of PCI, portable customer interaction, the standard from OneNet Tech, which allows us basically to embed any modern web application. And in this case, we embedded GeoGebra, which is also open source. That's also the power of being open source, is that you can combine multiple projects here to serve the common good here. And obviously with GeoGebra, we can suddenly assess more advanced math skills here. So the authoring tool is fully QTI 2.2 compliant. We are in progress of trying to implement QTI 3. It's highly configurable authoring tool. We support 17 interaction type with all the settings that are possible here. Tower Advance is the product that allows to administer the test to the test takers. It has been designed with user experience labs, focusing primarily on 8-year-old kids. So meaning that we try to make it as intuitive as possible, as simple as possible. No need to read the user guide, because in this context, it's not really a good approach to rely on a user guide to use the system. It has to be intuitive enough. And also we offer all the accessibility tools. So we have the full keyboard navigation. We support refreshable devices also with Braille. We have Zoom capabilities, highlighter, read aloud also capabilities there, because more and more, and with our customer base, there is obviously hard requirements to support the population with visual impairments, requirements, etc. That's why we have implemented all of this into our Tower Advance product. Tower Grader, as I said a little bit earlier, so that's basically the product where all the more complex responses flow into, and where graders can grade the responses, and we have multiple options there in terms of workflow. You can have multiple graders, so you can have a second grader reading behind the first grader to adjust a little bit the score. And you can see here on the left, basically, the scoring rubrics, and there's a link to the more detailed scoring rubrics where basically the teacher or the scorer can grade along those rubrics using the scale provided. Tower Insights is the product where all the data flows into, when I mean data, it's not only the data from Tower Advanced, it's also the data from the item bank, like the metadata on the items, the alignment with the curriculum or with competencies. And it's basically an API where you can grab all the data, but we also have capabilities to export the data CSV file. And you can also plug this API with business intelligence tools like Google Data Studio to start defining new reports as best fit your needs. Along those lines. We also do provide custom reports to our customers, but that's basically, in a sense, the whole of Tower Insights. Tower Portal is the entry point, because it's a suite with multiple products, as you have seen, right? And Tower Portal is kind of the entry point to all the product suite, and it's a single sign-on. So when you connect to it, depending on who you are, what is your role, you will see the relevant functionality of all the Tower product suite. So if you're a test taker, typically through the Tower Portal, you will see the assessment sessions that you are meant to take. Obviously, for teacher or for graders, they will see different things. So that's basically the Tower Portal. Now, coming back a little bit, right, to our case of Zanzibar, and if you remember this context and this picture, obviously it's challenging, right? I mean, how can we help those countries? But we are in a good position, obviously, with the open source software, and those countries, they are big fan of open source in general. But still, the other challenge is the infrastructure. As you've seen, not even electricity. So what we are working right now, and we already have a good prototype for those countries, is that we will basically deploy all the Tower product suite, and so all the recent product suite that we are going to update the product suite in January next year, and we will put all the product suite, and we already have some prototypes of this. We will put all of this on a Raspberry Pi. So if you can see on my camera, I don't know if you see it now. Basically, Raspberry Pi, it's a small computer. It costs around $80. It depends. There are many variations of this. And the great benefit of Raspberry Pi, so it can run the Tower suite, and it creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot. So you don't need to run servers, local servers. You don't need to rely on any local workstation that you don't know, where maybe it was not maintained correctly. You can deliver all the tests from a Raspberry Pi, and it creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot. And usually, like in Zanzibar, in secondary schools, the pupils, they have smartphones, so they can connect to the Wi-Fi of the hotspot, and they have access to modern assessments from there. Even the teacher can access the Raspberry Pi through the Wi-Fi, and the teacher can create new assessment or pick items from an item bank, a national item bank, and start assembling his own test for day-to-day usage. And everyone can access the Wi-Fi of the Raspberry Pi and take it from there. Low total cost of ownership. We're talking about $80 for a Raspberry Pi, and we're talking about open source. So very low total cost of ownership. And for the problem of electricity for primary school, it's a bit more challenging, obviously. But there we also have the possibility of using advanced power banks or more elaborated power bank for this kind of scenario. But we need obviously to focus first on secondary school with this kind of solution. So yeah, so that open source, open hardware, low, or at least low total cost of ownership are two ingredients, right, to address this kind of country and to try to improve the education system in those countries. And But it's not enough. We need also to build capacities. We need to offer trainings to this kind of countries. So we organize a lot of sessions, sometimes more technical sessions to train the subject matter experts to use our software there in terms of authoring tool, etc. But also in terms of, in general, for assessment, how to build an item bank, because sometimes they are moving from a form-based approach to an item-based approach. Also training on psychometrics to get insights about quality of the items. So it's not enough, right? Just to offer the software and the hardware, and it won't work as this. You need also to offer training to those countries. You need also to support them in the process, right, of this digital transformation, because it's a big endeavor. It requires a lot of things, and in terms of process, what we have seen in general from those countries is that one of the first interesting steps is to start with creating a digital item bank and align it with the curriculum, but still maybe deliver the test on the paper, like assemble the test using the digital item bank, but still deliver it on the paper for logistics reasons, and to approach it step by step, right? But it's a nice first step there, because it's already challenging to build, obviously, a digital item bank. It's a different approach, but usually the feedback we got there is that in terms of making their life easier when it comes to creating questions, items, etc., there is a huge benefit already for them, because obviously it's digital, easier, you can modify, edit it easily compared to Word documents. It's way different for them, and they win a lot of time. So that is for our experience in Zanzibar. And I think now the next slide will take you now to another country. I think you're going to travel now to Kathmandu, and I will give the floor now to Atto, I think, yeah? Yeah, Atto?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm in a very similar situation as our esteemed colleagues from these countries. I experienced severe internet bandwidth issues today, so I'm really in a challenging context. And I'm not able to see the slides, so I assume, now I can see it. Thank you very much. So Patrick already shared with you the experience we made in supporting countries like Tanzania and Zanzibar. And we had another interesting and challenging project with the NEB, the National Examination Board. And they launched through the Ministry of Education a school sector development plan that aimed to modernize their national exams and transition them, or help them to transition from paper to digital. So to accelerate the project setup, we initially used our TAO SaaS solution, that is a cloud-based solution for the TAO environment, that helped to quickly ramp up and support the item digitization. And Patrick already shared our TAO authoring module, and the colleagues used this. I hope you can still hear me. The colleagues from the NAB used this to start converting those paper-based tests into digital items. And we built a structured item bank and categorized it by subjects. And we focused initially on English, mathematics, and science and technology to map the learning outcomes. And they created hundreds of items in TAO. And what we did is, you can see on the lower right-hand side, you see Patrick standing amidst teachers and colleagues from the NEB. We trained them to create, store, and reuse these items. And over the month of the project, improving the quality control and to ensure a long-term independence. So teachers were capable of creating new items or recreate items based on existing items. The project eventually concluded with sharing the Tau open source code to them. We added the booklet print extension and packaged everything in a virtual machine so that NEB is able to continue developing items and delivering assessments throughout the country. Because of the lack of internet connection, these virtual machines are distributed throughout the country and to all school districts and the municipalities who are in charge of them, and then they use the virtual machine to generate the tests and print them out locally and then share the paper to schools. That is how we supported NEB. And I think, concluding what Patrick initially shared about Tanzania and now with Nepal, I think it is important to see that this digital transformation, right, that what drives it is a collaborative and a capacity building approach. It's nothing that happens overnight, but it's a step-by-step approach. And I think it is important to include all the stakeholders, like allowing for local capacities and shared ownership, right? And only then we can modernize and build sustainable education systems. And this even in the most resource-constrained settings. Next slide, please. Wonderful, thank you. I have internet bandwidth, it seems. So for us, education is not just a service. For us, it is a fundamental human right, right? A principle that is embedded in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, here as SG4. And I think it is important to support this movement and these organizations. And as the UNESCO leads the Education 2030 agenda to achieve the SDG 4 and all the other goals, I think it is important to become part of this organization, right, that unites governments, organizations, and of course, private partners, right, to support the mission, to make quality education not only accessible, but accessible to everyone and everywhere throughout the world. And so this is why our company joined the UNESCO Global Education Coalition in early 2022. And we became one at that time of around 200 coalition members. Now it increased to over 300 members. And all these members try to work together to strengthen the resilience of education systems, especially in low-income countries, right? And it's important that we ensure that technology serves as a bridge always to learning and not as a barrier. So what we did is, because we cannot assign a lot of resources, but what OAT tries how to support them is to contribute to the Global Education Coalition by our expertise, right, in open, scalable, and also inclusive assessment solutions, right? Basically centering around Tau to support the UNESCO. Next slide, please. So part of the Global Education Coalition is a dedicated group that is called DTC, the Digital Transformation Collaborative. And this was established to meet the growing need for a more coordinated and a global effort, right, to help countries modernize their education system through technology. Right? And you see on the left-hand side, it's a subgroup of the Global Education Coalition. You can see the logos that support them, and we take this seriously. We try to drive modernization in education, and this is why through the UNESCO as a facilitator, right, that we try to promote a holistic, human-centered, and a sustainable approach to this digital transformation. And so what we did is, as a group, we try to achieve a foundational methodology on how to support countries individually, right? And this is where the common framework that was co-developed by the partners came into existence, right? And we call it the 6 pillars for the digital transformation of education that you can see in the middle, right? And these 6 pillars, they encompass all key dimensions were identified for this transformation. It is coordination and leadership, it's connectivity and infrastructure, it is cost and sustainability, money is always a topic, capacity and culture, content and solutions, where TAO comes in, and then at the very heart of it, it is data and evidence. That is very important. And part of this work was that we developed a self-assessment questionnaire that we shared with interested countries to evaluate their maturity level across each of these pillars and make it easier to identify specific needs along their digital transformation journey. And what happened then is, and here you can see 2 pictures, is that one of our first major engagements that took place December 23 in Egypt, where UNESCO and its partners conducted a 2-day national workshop with the Ministry of Education and other representatives from other ministries like finance, etc. And together we assessed Egypt's digital readiness. We visited schools in Cairo, and then we developed concrete recommendations to guide the country's national digital education strategy. Of course, this takes time. This needs trust, a mutual alignment over time, and of course, it always needs funding and investment. Right? This plays always a crucial role. And part of the active members are funding organizations that support the economical, the financial side of this as well. And so thanks to this success of our first Egypt workshop, we kind of inspired other countries like Brazil and North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, and we are continuing working with each of these countries to improve and to push for the innovation for the good and support of the SDG 4, quality education for all. So if any of you would like to learn more or explore participation in future DTC initiatives, please feel free to reach out to us, to me, and we're always looking to expand the collaboration and share experience. So next slide, please. Let's move from UNESCO to yet another international organization that Patrick mentioned earlier. And I would like to use this moment in time to reflect, because it's not so obvious or apparent that there is a long tradition between the OECD and TAO. And this slide highlights this long-standing relationship and partnership, especially with regards to the PISA program. It began with the preparations for the 2009 PISA cycle already, when the OECD selected TAO to pilot PISA's first digital delivery. By the way, at that time, it was distributed on CD-ROMs. Maybe you still remember, right? These silvery slides, discs that everybody used to use in the last century. But by 2012, the pilot had already expanded because of its success, and they were using USB-based testing solutions, right? Where you just plug in TAO as a standalone assessment delivery service to each of the laptops, and then you just distribute USB sticks. It's a lot about logistics, and you only retrieve the data and the scoring data after you all collected them and then uploaded everything on servers and start the evaluation. So in 2012, we started expanding this pilot together with ACR, the Australian, our partner for educational research in Australia. In 2015, right, the collaboration continued but at that time with a new partner, and that was ETS from the US. And because Tau is open source, ETS built its own capacities to support Tau on USB sticks, and then they became fully independent. And so they were able to cover the upcoming assessment cycles in 2018 and 2021 on their own. So it seemed, right? Because there was no cycle in 2021, it was 2022, because COVID struck the world, and the OECD had to pause the program for 1 year. Now, fast forward to 2022, when ACR won the PISA 2025 contract again from ETS, right? It's always the one or the other. They reached out again to us as a technology partner. And this was great for us because it reaffirmed the Tau platform's reliability and our global relevance. And now, with the 2025 cycle, PISA marks a historic milestone that might be not obvious to a lot of people. Remember what I said about the USB sticks? Now we went fully online, powered by our Tau cloud and supported by a Tau offline solution that we developed in the course of PISA for this program to ensure that we allow a universal access in all countries to take the test digitally. Of course, I mean, for onboarding countries, paper is still an option. But I think what I want to show here is that this is a journey that not only reflects our evolution around Tau, but I think it shows that there is a transition to large-scale digital and globally connected assessment through this program by the OECD, PISA, and we are closely connected with it. Next slide, please. Okay, so PISA is the OECD's global benchmark for measuring educational outcomes throughout the world. And of course, we are proud to be part of a consortium of 4 service providers around Asia. And we delivered successfully the program for the cycle 2025. So it's concluded already, the assessment part, not the evaluation and data analytics part. But just to mention a little bit of the metrics in PISA. It covers over 90 countries and economies, up to 120 languages and language variants. And in theory, we only covered around close to 900,000 tests, right, so far, worldwide. That is a challenge on the one hand side, but not a challenge with regards to scalability needs, right? The challenges lie somewhere else. So both online and offline to string the data as needed and not lose any, let's say, cohorts within the student population is a challenge that became apparent in this cycle, right? So with the USB sticks, it was quite easy because it was more a logistic job. And then some of the USB sticks, they have viruses, they are not usable, so you could exchange them. But here, everything needs to work, right? The full end-to-end infrastructure and technology stack needs to work seamlessly. We had some situations where schools were not able to open dedicated ports for Tau on their school servers, or on the assessment day, somebody made a patch or a reconfiguration, and then you need to redo it again, right? All these challenges came more transparent in this cycle, right? But we learned a lot, and in the end, it was very stressful, but a great experience for us nonetheless. Next chart, please. That is my last chart on the PISA cycle. And here you can see we successfully concluded. Last tests were taken in October. All countries covered. You see in blue the numbers of online testing, and in orange offline testing. All sessions per week and across all the participating countries. We started in February and modestly increased in March, only a few thousand at that point in time, and then ramped up quickly April and early May. These were the most challenging months of the cycle. Yeah. And in mid-May, we had a week, I think you can see here, yeah, of over 80,000 online sessions. Right. So, and after that, countries declined. And you can see contractually, we had to cover about 10% were offline, and I think it's even below 10%. So, and some of the countries decided to go for hybrid. So for some of the schools, they use the offline solution, and for others, they use the online solution. Next slide, please. Another important topic I would like to share with you is about PISA as well. But in PISA, you have separate areas of assessment. One is the so-called trend items, and the other one is the more innovative items. And the OECD selects specific, let's say, domains for each of the assessment cycles. And for PISA 2025, it was learning in the digital world, or short LDW. And what I want to express here is how TAO is capable of achieving the objectives that relate to these innovative item domains. So what is the learning in the digital world domain? Right? It is the most recent one and maybe the most challenging one. And the OECD is famous for its innovation. And you can assume that for the next cycle, 2029, it will be all about AI. So, but for LDW, it was important to measure how well students can learn and solve problems using digital tools, because this is what they just do now, right? And this is what we need to understand as well. So at the core of LDW, it combines two complementary skill areas. And the first one is the computational problem solving, right? How students explore, experience, and analyze data and build or debug digital artifacts. And the second one was self-regulated learning, the ability of the students to monitor progress, adapt strategies, evaluate outcomes, and stay motivated in digital environments. And I have no insights about this yet. As I already mentioned, the assessment has been concluded. Now it's all about the data analytics. So let's wait and see how the countries and our students performed here. Right? But together, these skills reflect, the need to thrive in technology-rich learning settings. I mean, it's something different if you are using TikTok or, let's say, Facebook. But these items are more challenging in that regard, that they combine a lot of skills that is needed, right, to solve these issues in the future for students. Let me explain, right? So each task is delivered as a 30-minute digital unit in PISA with 4 clear phases: show, learn, apply, and reflect. And within these units, students might work with block-based programming tools. Maybe you've heard about or seen the turtle from the OECD, simulations, concept maps, or flowcharts. There are tutorials and examples and feedback and timing features that guide students through this learning process of each unit. Right? And it is just as real-world digital tools would do as well. All tasks, of course, are computer-based in TAO and designed to capture not only the final answers, but also how students reach them. And that is crucial for this assessment cycle. So scoring combines automatic partial credit for responses with processed data. We collect clicks, edits, help-seeking actions, creating rich picture of both performance and behavior for the students. The results are then reported as performance scale along with learners' profiles that describe how students approach digital learning challenges. So, and what about TAO? So TAO here really excels because we collect all kinds of dedicated data points throughout the assessment journey of the student, right? The interactivity, everything is automated and it is captured. So just to let you know, right? There was a need for a detailed event logging and telemetry matches. And we covered this using our internal data collection, and then through API moved all the collected data to the colleagues of ACR for further analytics. So TAO supports complex and partial credit scoring, and we were able to collect all the data. So you have to understand that the PISA assessment is done in a multilingual online and offline delivery. So even for these challenging items in the learning in the digital world, we had to sync all the data, and we had massive data collections of a couple of terabytes or gigabytes per school, terabytes in total that need to be evaluated and analyzed in the end. But it worked. So I think in short, learning in the digital world is the OECD's blueprint for assessing how students learn with technology. It's interactive, it's scalable, it's data rich, and it is ready for global multilingual deployment. And this through an open source solution like TAO. Quite an accomplishment. So do I still have time? Not much. So what I want to briefly add to this slide is that it is not only about the innovative items, but I think it is important to include or not lose sight of topics like inclusion and equity in assessment. And what we did together with the OECD is, and a little bit of funding from OECD and OET, we developed a dedicated set of accessibility tools that are natively integrated into TAO. And what we did is, using these tools in combination with the assessment content, thanks to PISA from the OECD, we started to do a research study with selected countries from the OECD, and we started to conduct a pilot that would use these specific or selected items from PISA in combination with the use of accessibility tools. Okay, next slide, please. And this is my last slide. Talking about the community and open source, I would like to introduce you to our colleagues from Flip Plus. Flip Plus is a non-profit international e-assessment organization founded in 2019 and founded by ministries of education from France, Luxembourg, Italy, and Portugal, hence the name. And then a lot of other organizations and countries joined, and that is why they put there a plus, right? But what is interesting for the community is this group is very interested in sharing technology, open source technology, open educational content, and best practices, how to advance digital assessment and how to support SDG 4. And what this group of countries started is to collect money and fund a central library that can be used by all members, and some contribution is expected already, but they collect all kinds of items from different subjects, grades, different countries. This is a collaboration effort where you see real value in sharing and contributing to a common goal, right? And I mean, this network meets annually, right? They share a lot of information. I included the link to the Flip Plus, and I'm happy to support you. Reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hato. And so this last slide to conclude, and I really apologize. It seems like we lost a little bit the camera feed, but I wanted to share with you some very good news from OAT is that we, with all those experiences, including the one with PISA that Hato went through, that we have built a new generation of all our products. With an improved user experience, with a lot of new features, and OAT is committed to release the full technology that has been built through our customers in the last years in January 2026. No strings attached to that. It's our commitment there to release all this technology. So in January, we will have also a complete revamp of the community. So we are setting up already now some new tools in terms of forum. We are going to organize also regular webinars with the community. We are also launching a program of innovation, leveraging AI in different areas, but in connection with academic institutions to make sure we are doing it in the right way with a good level of accuracy when it comes to generate items or when it comes to AI-based human scoring. But that's one of the news we wanted to share, is that all the new technology built by OAT in the last year will also be released in January. So it will be a major update of the Tao suite, and it will come as the source code. It will come also as a Docker image. They're available for anyone and include also all those low resource countries for usage. We want to try to foster the community and include the maximum of low resource countries into the community and try to support those countries in their endeavor to improve the education system. So that's something we wanted to share today. It's a big leap in terms of commitment into the open source area, and I'm really proud to announce this here to all the eAA audience as well. And to conclude, I mean, here are some pictures of the early days of the community, because obviously all of that is possible not only because of OAT, but it's also possible thanks to a community that is contributing to OAT. Would that be with source code? Would that be also with questions, with feedbacks, with support? So yeah, thanks also to the community, and we hope this community will grow a bit more. With that said, I think we can conclude here. I think there might be some of the questions. If you have some questions later on, feel free to contact us. I included here our email addresses. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, and don't hesitate also to check our website in January to get more information about the major update of our open source release. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. There is a link below to learn more about Tao. We're a bit limited on time. There is one question, then I've got something, and it's got, is a cloud logic the opposite of open source, which doesn't mean anything to me. I guess is that, I don't know what cloud logic is.
Or maybe I can take this one, though I don't really know in what context this question was asked. But I mean, today we have two innovation labs ongoing. One is on the item generation, where we collaborate with the LIST institution. So it's a research center in Luxembourg, where they help us basically to validate the quality of the generated items according to 11 different dimensions, including biases, etc. So where they also introduce negative examples in the items generated to detect if the validation of generated items is correct. So this is one of the first use case. And the second use case is AI for human scoring. So it's still a grader in the loop use case of AI. So it's basically a recommendation to the grader, and what we're doing there is basically we highlight in a constructed response or in an essay a subset of the response of the text, highlight specific parts, and we explain to the grader how they contribute positively or negatively to the score. So the grader ultimately makes the final call on the score, but gets a bit more explanations about how the AI comes. So it's not just prompting GPT and get a score. It's about getting large language models to try to highlight specific parts and how they could contribute to a score. So those are the two big use cases we use today in assessments and that we are exploring on our site. Yeah. Thank you very much, Younes, for this question.
Brilliant. Obviously, like, you can email Hans and Patrick directly if you've got any more questions or wants a bit more detail. It's actually something that I wanted to ask. So, I mean, absolutely fascinating the work you do, and I never realised how much you were doing. I've got lots to think about the soft skills and the non-technical skills, but I'm going to ask the question because obviously you're dealing with a lot of countries where technology infrastructure is not there. I personally think that paper and pencil is here to stay for a while for those large-scale examinations. It's just impossible to have an expectation of everybody having access to a digital device. So there's two questions. One is, do you have to prepare the students to be able to take the exam online, or do you feel it's, I don't like the word intuitive, it's straightforward enough that kids can just use it for the PISA exams? And then secondly, do you think there'll be a world where national exam boards will say, well, not everyone has to take the same exam? With, you know, there's lots of psychometric techniques, you can have comparable exams. Do you think that's likely, or do you think it's no, everyone's got to take the same exam at the same day? Because that's always a challenge for technology. So probably for you more, Hans, than Patrick.
Yeah, so I mean, from our experience, there was still indeed this tradition of trying to stick to the same exam being administered on the very same day, bringing even more challenges in terms of infrastructure. The idea of rotating the item bank and relying on psychometrics to establish the validity of what we assess, even if they are spread over time on every week, seems to be more challenging. So our experience there was that there was still a tradition of trying to stick to deliver everything on the same day. And in terms of administrating the test to the students, with indeed the requirements for having digital devices there, it's still a big challenge. Like for the examples we mentioned today, for both Zanzibar and Nepal, I think it will take like 10 years before we get there. I think today it's more about building the digital item bank and still generating a paper version of the test before we can start actually administrating the test on digital devices. But there is willingness to go there. There is willingness to go there, but it takes time. Yeah.
And maybe to add. Yeah. And maybe to add on that, what Patrick just mentioned is, I think it is the approach, or we need a change in the paradigm, right? Because what technology is expected to do is support existing processes, workflows, and organizations, right? And looking at our ministries of education, and what we are covering mostly is diagnostic assessments, summative assessments. From the organizational point of view, there is one single day, and I need to conduct the assessment on this day. There is no other thing to think about, right? Mm-hmm. Coming back to what you said, technology is here to support us. Why not take out the stressfulness to the students and, using, let's say, adaptive testing to better suit the need, and then to take out this kind of stressful situation on everybody, right? And you might have experienced, recently there was an outage on AWS, right? this has a severe impact globally. That is really an issue. And if you can take out these kind of challenges, it will really serve them well as well, right? But what I perceive right now, at least our core clients are very conservative, and they stick to their own rules, processes, and workflows. And we have to adapt and support these workflows. I'm conscious we're out of time. Unfortunately, we've been beaten by the clock, but maybe we could organise a follow-up session another time, because I think there's a lot of experience you have that I'd really appreciate if you could share with people. So thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you very much, Hans. There was another question in the chat, but what we'll do is we'll answer that later, because like I said, we've run out of time now. So Eunice, I think you ask a question, we can pick that up later. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much again, both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.